Alright, welcome back to the Sci Fi Case project. In this tutorial we're going to basically create this sort of latch here. So you can see here I've kind of set it up so the idea here is that you would open it up by clicking on it and then pulling a lever, and then maybe there'd be another latch down here. So I'm thinking some sort of double latch, like high security kind of system here. And so in order to create this latch, we need to basically duplicate the faces off the edge and then do some extrusion and a little bit of modeling. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So what I'm going to do here is essentially I'm just going to move this out of the way, and I'll move this little cylinder out of the way. I kind of put it as a filler for sort of the rotation device. And here's where we left off before. We finished off this area here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select number one for the unsmooth method, and I'm going to select some faces in here to duplicate. So if I right click, go to face mode, I can select a face, hold shift, double click, and then just hold shift and then double click on the next one, click once, double click. Remember, if you double click across, it creates the whole edge, all the face in between essentially. And so I wouldn't want to do an extrusion. Extrusion would make this attached, but you can duplicate your faces by going to edit mesh and down here to duplicate. And what that does is that creates a duplication of this entire face that I selected, all these faces, and just kind of pull up with the blue arrow here and then right click, go to object mode and select the object. It's in this group here. If I hit shift P, it'll jump out of the group and be in its own object here. And it looks like what I can do now is I can isolate it just by clicking on the arrow here. First thing I want to do with this object is to go to edge mode and get rid of some of these extra edge loops. So I'm going to double click on this one, hold shift key, double click, and then hold shift key, double click, and then just hit control delete to get rid of those. We don't need quite so many edge loops there. Now I did add an edge loop right here, so I'm going to add one with the insert edge loop tool. Just click there, and then what I'm going to do here now is kind of shape this a little bit just by right click, go to vertex mode, select this vert and this vert, and hit W and kind of R, sorry, use a scale tool to kind of scale those in and create this kind of shape here, like so. And so let me escape out here for a sec. And it looks like that's pretty much all I did here. I might have added another edge loop along here, but I think that's it. So now what I'm going to do is double click to go into face mode, select all the faces, and then hit control E for the extrude tool. And then I'll pull up the blue arrow here to kind of pull them up a little bit. And then once I have them up a little bit, I'll click on the blue cube, and then I'll click on the center cube and drag to the left a little bit, and that'll kind of scale them in a little bit. So you can see I'm starting to scale it in overall. And just checking the thickness and stuff, I hit number 3. You can kind of see I'm getting kind of similar thickness and stuff, and it looks okay. So I hit number 1 there, right click, go to object mode. Again, I'm going to isolate this object, and so the first thing I got to do here is I'm going to add a bevel at the top here, but what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to add just a supporting edge loop at the bottom. So this will kind of give a little bit of firmness. Now I could do it at the top too, but I think to make it just look a little cooler, I'm going to bevel the top edge around the side. You can see here it just gives a little more form there by doing that. So I'm going to double click here, hold the shift key, double click, and double click. And again, I'm just holding shift to do that. But basically I'm just selecting that entire top edge loop that goes all the way around. And then I'm going to add a bevel. So you can add bevel under mesh, edit mesh, and there it is, bevel. And then I'm going to adjust the fraction here to something like maybe 0.2 and add some segments, maybe 3. And maybe I'll tighten up that fraction a little bit, 0.1 maybe, just so it's a little tighter. And then I can go to object mode and hit number 3. And now you can kind of see I get that sort of petal-like structure that I had before. Now, I think the only thing I did with the other one is I added a couple edge loops to give tightness here. So if I add one right here and right here, what this will do is it'll kind of give me a stronger edge there. And then the other thing I think I did is I took this whole front end and just kind of scaled them in a little bit further. Just grabbing the verts, kind of did that. I think in fact what I'm going to do is drag all these guys, select them all, and just kind of bring them back a little bit. Notice though, right now the orientation, I could pull it back if I hit W, but what's going to happen is it's going to pull up a little bit. So I kind of want to go in the orientation of this angle here. And so you can get to that by going to your modeling toolkit and scrolling down to the area where it says object. So right now it's in object mode, but you can switch it to component mode, and then it'll follow a selected component, or you can select a component to follow on. And so I could, for example, edit the pivot and select this face here to align it to this. And so I'm thinking that's what I want to do. And then I click out of the edit pivot and then grab this red arrow, and you can kind of see I'm now sliding in the direction of that whole sort of face structure without having to pull it up and bend it. So yeah, something like that. I kind of want to give it just a little bit more room, maybe a tiny smidge. Then right click, go to object mode. And then you just gotta remember when you switch back to the move tool, it's gonna still be in that mode. So all you gotta do is switch it back to either object or world mode and it will pop up. The other thing I wanna do is center my pivot. So again, I have that in my custom shelf there, CP. But you can go to edit mesh, modify center pivot right there. And then lastly, I want to have it rotate down here. So that's the D key, remember, to change the insert. And basically I can move this along and I can hold the V key to snap it to here to align, and right there, and then kind of bring it down. And where it will actually rotate around is like a cylinder. So I'll kind of like bring it down a little bit further, something like here. And now when I hit E for rotation, you can see it kind of rotates the correct sort of way. So let me see what this looks like. Painting number 3, clicking off for a sec. I think that looks pretty good. It's not exactly the same as the other one, but I kind of like the way it folds in a little bit more. Actually, I like this one actually a little bit better. The last thing I might do is just kind of pull it up a little bit, give it a little bit more breathing space, and pull it out. So something like that, just so it sticks up a little bit. Imagining that, you know, it's sitting on a hinge here, and then this will easily just kind of rotate out, you know, pop out like that. Yeah, that looks good. Let me turn off wireframe on shade just to take out another look at the shape. Yeah, I like the shape. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. If I want, I could bring back, the only thing I'm thinking about is this edge along here. It pokes out a little bit where the other one didn't. And let me isolate this selection here and just go into vertex mode. And I'm gonna grab these sort of front verts here, this whole line. And what I wanna do is kind of just move them back a little bit. Now this has been happening with the object selection. Let's switch it to world. Okay, let's double click on the tool and reset it. Sometimes it's just been doing real buggy kind of things. Because when you select the verts, the arrows should line up there. And for some reason it jumped back here. And I didn't have anything selected back there, so just be aware of that. If you have something buggy with Maya go on, just, you know, try and reset the tool by double clicking and then clicking on reset tool. Again, just double click, reset tool. The other thing to do is just go out of object mode and go back to component mode and see if that works. But now I can move this back a little bit, and I think that looks a little bit better. Just in terms of, if I hit number 3 on here, you know, having a flatter edge there. Yeah, I think that looks cool. And I could tighten up this edge if I want to. click off of it. I mean, I think it's okay, but if I did want to tighten it up a little bit, and maybe I just want not the edge all the way, but I could like double click on, click on this guy, hold Shift key, double click, and then just kind of pull this up a little bit. Sometimes I'll do this in soft select mode and just kind of see what I can get in the, just by kind of pulling those across to see how that will look. And I kind of like that line a little better. It's a little crisper looking. If you don't like the line on the side here, all you gotta do is move out these edges a little bit, right? So double click on these guys. It is an edge loop, but as long as you get the whole edge there on the side, and you know, you can start to pull it back a little bit. So I'd probably want to do that with each side though. So double click on that. So now I can pull back a little bit and then up a little bit, and just be careful how much you move, because sometimes big movements can really start to distort this overall shape. So again, I'm just clicking and then holding Shift key, double click, and I maintain Shift while I'm clicking on the other side. So on this one, maybe pull down a little bit, and then just nudge it back just a smidge. Let's right click with object mode, click out. Yeah, that looks good. I like the edge there, and that looks pretty good. I could, you know, adjust that a tiny bit, but I think overall I'm digging this guy. So I think if we turn back wireframe unshaded, the last thing I could do is maybe add a cylinder here, and basically just add a cylinder. And you can do that in your polymodeling shelf as the cylinder right here. I just clicked on my custom shelf here, and I would scale it down, you know, crazy small, bring it up a little bit, and then you want to rotate it. So here's a trick with rotation. When you hit the E key, you can see in your channel box here, if you hold down the J key, you can rotate and it'll snap to different degrees. So now it's snapping the rotate X to 90 degrees. Obviously you can just type in 90 degrees in there and that would do the same thing, but I kind of like doing that J thing. It's kind of a neat little trick. I'm gonna go ahead and scale this down some more. W, and then now I'm gonna hit the V key, and I want this to snap down there. Hit F to frame in on it, and let's scale it down some more. And it's actually snapped directly in the center there, which is good. So I'd basically just kind of scale this down quite a bit, and then start to pull it out like that. Maybe that distance, something like that looks good. And then what I'm going to do is extrude off the ends. So I'm going to go into face mode on this, select all the faces, and then control drag in the middle. And that deselects the middle but leaves the two sides selected. Little trick there. So hit Control E to extrude. And what I'm going to do here is click on the blue cube and then click on the blue sphere and drag to the left a little bit. That creates an inner edge loop there. Then I'm going to bring this forward with the little guy there, the arrow. Actually, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to hit Control E again. Now I'm going to drag forward. I want a little lip there. Then click on the blue cube and kind of scale this in a smidge. Something like that would be kind of cool. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to finish off the ends, but Control E, blue cube to the left. You can see I'm kind of scale it in there. And then maybe just finish off by adding some edge loops. Maybe one there to tighten it up. Again, doesn't have to be right up against the edge, but somewhere there. One there, one close to there, and then I'm going to zoom in. This is kind of ridiculous, but I'll add one there, and maybe one here, or yeah, even one here. If I want this to be really tight, that's how I would do it. I don't know if I would ever get in this close on this object, but you know, if you're not concerned about adding enough or too much geometry, it's okay. Whoop. So if anytime you do that, just hit Control Z if you add an edge loop somewhere you don't want. But I can add just a few more edge loops, and this will just make it really tight for that object. Now I can right click on object mode and then hit number 3 on it. And you can see there, especially when I turn off wireframe unshaded here, how nice that little bevel effect kind of works. I could even do an extrusion in the middle if I wanted, or 2 on the ends. I think I'll leave it like this for right now. But yeah, now I just need to put it in place. So I'm thinking something like this. Maybe I need to scale it up a little bit, you know, something like that. And we're going to go ahead and call this tutorial number 13. Until next time, see you soon. Cheers.